So good morning, everyone, and welcome to the National Hispanic Council on Aging Nutrition webinar. My name is Christine Perez. I'm NACOA's Director of Programs, and it's my pleasure to moderate today's webinar. So today's webinar is an opportunity for us to explore key topics related to good nutrition, including the importance of a balanced diet, the role of exercise and physical activity in preventing chronic illness, and also the management of chronic diseases. Again, this event is sponsored by the Administration for Community Living, also known as ACL. And today's webinar is being recorded and will later be available via our YouTube channel. You can find us at NHCOA. So before starting the webinar, I want to take a moment to share with you something special. And it's a powerful way to for individuals across the country are joining NACOA's through our mission to improve the lives of Hispanic older adults, their families, and caregivers. And this is through our individual membership program. For just $25 a year, members receive access to exclusive resources, educational workshops, advocacy toolkits, and bilingual health and aging information. So, but more than that, by becoming a member, they are directly supporting our work, our mission, and the programs we provide to uplift and empower our community. I invite you to become a member today and to spread the word of this great opportunity. Together, we can raise our voices and make lasting impact. So to begin this virtual event, it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Yanira Cruz. She's the president and CEO of the National Hispanic Council on Aging, and she's one of the nation's foremost advocates and spokespersons for diverse older adults, and has been recognized for her commitment and leadership on behalf of a diverse older adults nationwide. So welcome, Dr. Cruz.
Thank you, Christine. It's great to be here, and thank you everyone for making time to joining us today for this very important webinar. And thank you to ACL for supporting our work and helping us keep um, our communities safe and healthy. So the importance of today's topic cannot be understated. The challenges we face in our health and in the health of our loved ones are challenges that can be difficult to manage even at the best of times. While there is no exception to this experience between communities, it is certainly true that some communities face more obstacles than others in both prevention and treatment alike. And for Latino Americans, food is not just about nutrition. It's about culture, it's about tradition, it's about bringing people together. But just as important as it is to enjoy the meals we love, it is also important that we make sure what we eat supports our health and our well-being. And so let's come together, eat delicious food, and prevent the worst illnesses. Because the difference good nutrition can make truly is that great. It's we have that saying, we are what we eat, right? And healthy eating helps us prevent chronic conditions like diabetes, like high blood pressure, cardiovascular disease, and other conditions that affect many of our families, many of our friends and loved ones. But it doesn't end with food. We owe it to ourselves and our families to be responsible across the board when it comes to protecting our health. There are many other simple steps we can all take. For example, staying up to date with vaccines is one of the most effective ways to keep our families and communities strong. Vaccines along with other healthy habits, allow us to keep moving forward so that we can keep working, keep studying, and keep enjoying life. It not only protects ourselves, but our loved ones and our community as a whole. And by making small but powerful choices, including choosing healthier foods, staying active, and keeping up with vaccination, we honor our traditions while building healthier futures for our families, for our communities, and for ourselves. And so today, I thank you for joining us and for being part of this important conversation. We hope you can take advantage of our panel's expertise and implement the teachings from today's discussion into your daily activities. Repetition is key to our success. So if we eat healthy, let's eat healthy as much as possible every day. Let's stay active as much as possible every day. And remember that together we can make a positive change to health and to health for us and for our communities and for generations to come. Start good habits and always make informed decisions about your health and your well-being. And with that, I want to say thank you to Christine for moderating this webinar, and also to our esteemed panelists. Many of you have met them before. They're experts in the field with years of experience and with much passion to make this world a healthier place. So with that, I want to turn it over to Christine and to everyone. Enjoy the rest of the session and be well.
Thank you, Dr. Cruz. So let's get started with the panel session. So as we age, maintaining a balanced diet becomes all the more important for our overall health and well-being. The benefits to your everyday life from eating well can be seen not just in your body, but in the independence and improved quality of life that a healthy body provides. So let's welcome our next speaker, Dr. Gabriela Armendariz, consultant. So today, Dr. Armendariz will highlight the importance of a balanced diet and what a balanced diet looks like as we age. Welcome, Dr. Armendariz.
Thank you, Christine. It's always, I want to start by saying that it's always an honor to be here and to be able to share with everyone something that I'm very passionate about. So we can start, please. So as Christine said, I'm gonna start talking about the importance of a balanced diet as we age. Next, please. Sorry, I have a visitor here. So as we get older, our nutrition becomes one of the most powerful tools that we have for staying healthy. So eating well helps us maintain overall health and well-being, allowing us to do the things that we enjoyed with energy and confidence. So good nutrition supports our muscles and bones, which naturally weakens as we age. So by making sure we get enough protein, calcium, and vitamin D, we can keep moving, walking, and lifting without as much risk of falls and fractures. So it also protects our heart and brains. So foods like fish, vegetables, fruits, and whole grains provide the nutrients that lower the risk of heart disease. So, and also help with memory problems and other age-related conditions. So balanced eating can prevent or help manage, as Dr. Cruz was saying, chronic diseases such as diabetes, high blood pressure, and, for example, also osteoporosis, conditions that affect many older adults in our communities. So, well, and finally, eating well improves our daily energy and independence. So it means being able to cook, garden, play with the grandchildren, or even just walk to the store without feeling too tired. So nutrition, and I want to emphasize on this, nutrition is not about just good food. Nutrition is about preserving quality of life. Next, please. So I want to talk a little bit about how our nutritional needs evolve as we age. So it's a common misconception that older adults need less of everything. In reality, while our calorie needs may decrease due to the reduced activity that we may have, our nutrients need to remain the same or even increase. So this means that we need to be smart about the foods that we choose. This is where the importance of nutrient-dense foods comes, right? So we need to focus on foods that pack a lot of vitamins, minerals, and other beneficial compounds in fewer calories. So for example, I'm going to highlight some key nutrients that are especially important as we age. For example, calcium for bone health. So as we get older, our bones can become weaker, increasing the risk of osteoporosis. So adequate calcium intake is essential for maintaining bone density and strength. Vitamin D for bone and immune health. Vitamin D helps our bodies absorb the calcium, and it also plays a crucial role in immune function. So many older adults are deficient in vitamin D. So it is important to ensure that we are getting enough through diet or, if necessary, through supplements. Vitamin B12 is for nerve function. So B12 is crucial for maintaining healthy nerve function or red blood cell production. So absorption of B12 can decrease with age, so it is important to monitor our intake of B12. Fiber for digestion and blood sugar control. Fiber helps regulate digestion, prevents constipation, and helps control blood sugar levels. It's essential for maintaining a healthy digestive system and preventing chronic diseases. Protein is super important for muscle health. As we age, we naturally lose muscle mass. So adequate protein intake is essential for maintaining muscle strength, mobility, and overall health. So that's why it is important to keep in mind to always add in protein in all our meals. Next, please. So I want to show you how to build a balanced plate. So for example, you can see this in an image. Imagine your plate divided into sections like this image shows, right? So you have half of your plate should be filled with fruits and vegetables. This will ensure that you are getting a wide range of vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. 1/4 of your plate should be filled with whole grains. These provide complex carbohydrates for sustained energy and the fiber that I was mentioning before, and this will help you to your digestive health. And the remaining 1/4 of your plate should be filled with lean proteins. Protein is essential for maintaining muscle mass and strength, as we discussed earlier. Also include healthy fats, such as nuts, olive oil, and avocado. And don't forget dairy or dairy alternatives to ensure you are getting adequate calcium or vitamin D. And also, don't forget your water. Water is a main thing and an important element for you to always include throughout the day. Next, please. So building on the balanced plate concept, I'm going to talk a little bit more about food choices within each group, especially tailored for older adults. So fruits and vegetables, right? I think we need to aim for a variety of color. Think beyond the basics, include dark leaf greens like spinach, kale, vibrant berries, and colorful peppers that are packed with antioxidants, vitamins, and minerals. So don't be afraid to experiment with different fruits and vegetables to keep your meal interesting. Also, in lean protein is, as I mentioned before, is crucial for maintaining our muscle mass. So opt for lean sources like fish, which is rich in omega-3, fatty acids, poultry without the skin, beans, lentils, and lean cuts of meat. These sources provide the necessary protein without excessive saturated fat. Whole grains, choose whole grains over refined grains whenever possible. For example, brown rice, quinoa, whole wheat bread, Oats and tortillas are excellent choices. They provide fiber, which is essential for digestion and blood pressure control. Healthy fats, don't fear fats. I know that sometimes we hear fats, it's like, oh no, but they're healthy fats, right? Healthy fats are essential for brain health and overall well-being. So include sources like nuts, seeds, and avocados in your diet. These provide monounsaturated and monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats that which are beneficial for your health. Also, dairy, as I mentioned before, include a serving of milk, yogurt if you can, or fortified plant-based alternatives to ensure you're getting adequate calcium and vitamin D. And as I want to emphasize on this, hydration. Perhaps this is one of the most overlooked aspects of healthy eating, is hydration. As we age, our sense of thirst may decrease. So it is crucial to make a conscious effort to drink plenty of water throughout the day. Water helps with digestion, circulation, and overall body functions. Next, please. So we know what to eat now, right? But how do we make it happen in our daily lives? We are here, I'm going to talk about some practical tips for healthy eating as you age. Cook and eat with others. Sharing meals can make eating more enjoyable and encourage healthier choices. Social interaction is also crucial for mental well-being, so consider joining a community meal program or regularly inviting friends and family over for meals. And I think this is also very crucial for our community, our Hispanic and Latino community, since we are a very social culture, right? So this may help with eating healthier. Experiment with different flavors and textures. As we age, our taste buds may change. So don't be afraid to try new recipes, new spices. And this may keep your meals more exciting. And this may help prevent you from getting bored of eating the same all the time. And in this way, you may be able to get more nutrients for other types of food. Consider, if possible, and if you can, consider meal delivery services. If cooking becomes challenging for older adults, there are many healthy meal delivery services specifically designed for older adults. These services can provide balanced, prepared meals that are convenient and nutritious. Consult a registered dietitian for personal advice. Everyone's nutritional needs are unique, and registered dietitian can provide personalized guidance based on your specific health conditions, medications, and lifestyle. They can help you create a meal plan that meets your individual needs and preferences. Next, please. So we discussed the ideal scenario, right? We can talk with friends, we can have everything, we can have the delivery services. So, but let's be realistic, right? Aging comes with its own set of challenges that can impact our eating habits, and I'm going to talk a little bit about some of them. Loss of appetite. This can be a common issue. If you are finding it hard to eat enough, you can try these strategies. Add flavorful spices, as I mentioned before, and different herbs to your meals to stimulate your taste buds. Engage in regular physical activity that we are going to hear more about later today, because exercise can help you to increase the appetite. And opt for smaller and more frequent meals throughout the day rather than 3 large meals. If you have difficulty in chewing, because we start having some dental issues, choose softer foods like cooked vegetables, soups, stews, and yogurt. Consider using a blender or food processor to puree or mash foods. Consult with your dentist to address any underlying dental problems. If you have any financial constraints, eating healthy can sometimes seem expensive, but it doesn't have to be. Some tips may be like buy in bulk when possible, especially for staple items like grains and beans. If you are opting for some fruits, I know in the US, I don't know if we have already like a seasonal fruit. It seems like we have all the time all the fruits, but sometimes some fruits are cheaper than others, right? So going through for those fruits may help us. Use coupons and take advantage of sales of your local grocery store. Choose affordable protein sources like beans, lentils, and eggs. Consider community resources that provide meals for seniors. And also, I think that if you are within, if you have a strong community, asking for help when it's hard for you to cook, when it's hard for you to go to the grocery store, is also okay. You're not alone. And I think as we age, it's okay that we recognize that we may need some help. But if we do eat healthier and we choose the right nutrition, we may prevent to need as much from others. So that's all what I have for you today. And if you have any questions, please, there's my email so you can reach out to me.
Thank you, Dr. Gabby, for your informative presentation. Again, if any of you have questions about Dr. Armendariz's presentation, we invite you to hold on to type them into the chat box. And at the end of the panel session, we will have, again, a question and answer session where we will have the time to address the questions. So chronic diseases such as obesity and cardiovascular disease represents a growing public health concern, particularly among Hispanic Americans. These chronic conditions not only impact individuals' quality of life, but also place a significant strain on healthcare systems altogether. Our next speaker is Dr. Pacheco. He will speak more on this, and he's an experienced physician and also an advisor to the National Hispanic Council on Aging. Today, Dr. Pacheco will highlight the burden of chronic diseases such as obesity and also cardiovascular disease on Hispanic Americans. Dr. Pacheco, the floor is yours.
Hi, Christine. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. Great. Thank you. Yes, good morning. Thank you so much for your kind invitation to speak in this session of NACOA. Very, very, very valuable. Essentially, with the older set of slides, we'll define chronic diseases and we'll review some of the most common diseases affecting Hispanic and Latino Americans. And we'll focus on a few chronic diseases with high prevalence, morbidity, and mortality. Next slide. Yes, there's a definition of chronic diseases, but which you can read: conditions that last a year or more, require ongoing medical attention, diseases lasting 3 months or more, or sometimes when you have a cough, more than 3 weeks is already shoots you into the category of chronic diseases. One of the things that I wanted to mention is that, and I had on my newer set of slides, is that there was an old greeting. I don't know if if they still do it, but there was an old Jewish greeting that instead of saying "How are you" or something like that, they would say, "May you live to be 120." And of course, that refers to the age at which Moses died. He died at the age, and it's there in the Bible. He died at the age of 120, but it says there very clearly his eyes had not grown dim and his vigor had not declined. And I think that's an important following sentence in the Bible, because it's in Deuteronomy 34:7, just in case. It's because it says that, yes, ideally we'd like to age to up to 120, but we want to be in good shape. We want to have good vision, stamina, and that's essentially the wish that we have as we get into our older ages. Next slide. Yes, well, as you can see, the life expectancy for Hispanics is really it's not bad if you compare it to the non-Hispanic white population, which is the standard that we use to measure to evaluate quality of life, quality of services. So we really are doing well despite all the drawbacks in our life, poverty, lack of access to care. Now, if I'm going to next slide, please. Next slide. Yes. Well, let me review, first of all, before this slide, let me review some of the leading causes of death in the United States. In order, the leading cause of death, of course, is heart disease, cancer, accidents, stroke, chronic lower respiratory diseases, Alzheimer's, diabetes, nephritis, nephrotic syndrome. If you look at those leading causes of death, some are very closely linked. For example, heart disease and stroke, they're all linked with diabetes. And also a nephrotic syndrome, diseases of the kidney are very closely linked with diabetes. That doesn't mean that diabetes is the only cause for this disease of the kidneys, but it's one of the leading causes in our population. And as you can see, the prevalence of diabetes is very high among Hispanics. Next thing that we need to notice in that slide that I have is that overweight and obese is very, very high. And we used to not consider, being overweight and obese a disease. In fact, it was mostly overlooked in many cases. But now that's been taken very seriously, because being obese, being overweight, is a very important pathway to increase mortality, increase the disability in the Hispanic population. Next slide. Okay. I'm going to, if you look at the difference in preventive care between Latinos and other people with the usual source of care, you can see that, of course, there is a problem there in access to care. Now, one of the things that I wanted to do from the diseases of mortality that we just saw is to select a few chronic diseases that really affect Hispanics and I think most of our population, which is obesity. Obesity is right now very close to 50%. Obesity among men is 44%, 46% among women, 46%. Half of our population is obese, population over 20, right? Diabetes is another very high, highly prevalent chronic disease, and it's about 14%, 12% in 14% men, 12% in women. That's also pretty high for a very destructive illness. Next, we describe hypertension, high blood pressure. So 50% of older Latinos have high blood pressure, and about 35 to 40% in women. Cardiovascular disease, which of course leads to one of the highest mortality rates, is half, 50% of Latino men and 37% Latino women. Chronic disease, chronic liver disease follow it. So if you look at those chronic diseases that I just described, obesity, diabetes, hypertension, cardiovascular disease, chronic disease, chronic kidney and liver disease, they are all very linked, and they can be attacked with very all together. So you don't have to worry about each one of them. They can be approached all together in one if we simply focus on obesity. Next slide. Yes, and here, it shows the age of diagnosis, hypertension and ethnicity among Hispanics. So you can see that it's pretty high. Hypertension, as I said, has reached 50% of men and 35% of women. Next slide. I am going to, as I said, I'm going to kind of jump over the slides into what I wanted to focus my talk today, and that is we are faced with severe chronic diseases that bring a lot of mortality and a lot of disability and a lot of expense in healthcare and in management. And the question is, can we prevent or reverse chronic diseases? And the answer is yes. Yes, we can. especially these most common destructive chronic diseases, they are caused by modifiable risk factors. And these modifiable risk factors are under our control, under the individual control, and of course with significant help from the community and from health agencies, but they're definitely under our control. Next slide. As I mentioned, if you look at the conditions that the slides are displaying, and as I mentioned, this is my old set of slides, not the new one, but I will let it send a new set of slides, and we can see them when you go to the NHCOA website. But if we look at the risk factors, we can see that the root causes of chronic diseases are unhealthy lifestyles, poor nutrition, lack of physical activity, tobacco use, and excessive alcohol use. I should point out that tobacco use is lower among Hispanics than, let's say, non-Hispanic whites. So we're doing okay, but zero tobacco is definitely the best. And of course, there are the environmental risk factors for which individuals have, not much control, except as a community, which would be water pollution, air pollution. Air pollution brings, respiratory diseases, which affect the heart. And there you have the cascade, right? And then there are other things that, individuals have very little grasp on, and they're really, it's very hard to talk to the individual about this. But of course, we know that there is this underlying chronic inflammation going on in our bodies, and a lot of it is affected by stress, poor sleep. But we should also not forget that socioeconomic conditions such as poverty, lack of access to health care, preventive services contribute to these unhealthy lifestyles. Next slide. Now, here, we're looking at in the slides at the prevalence of obesity among Hispanics as compared to others, and we can see that the Hispanic obesity is very high. But what really is the setup for this finding? One of the things is that there are underlying socioeconomic, cultural, political factors that affect all of us as a group, all of us, Hispanic, non-Hispanic, African Americans. Then if we move a little bit more closer to the individual, we find that within this social economic conditions that we live, there are what we call modifiable risk factors, things that you as an individual, that we as individuals can do something about and have a direct impact on this chronic disease. Modifiable risk factors are unhealthy diets, which Dr. Armendariz reviewed, physical inactivity, which will be addressed, tobacco use, and then, there are the non-modifiable, such as genetics. You inherit some genetic predispositions and things like that. Well, that can control age. As we get older, a lot of our there's a body breakdown, and so that makes it easier for us to be fall prey to chronic diseases. But I still wish to focus on the modifiable, and that is unhealthy diet, physical inactivity, and tobacco use. Then, if we take that group and we move on one more step and we go into the intermediate risk factors, well, then we find high blood pressure, high sugars, and overweight and obesity, which are all under our control. We can do something about our blood pressure and our high glucose and abnormal lipids, normal fat circulating in our body, depositing here and there and causing atherosclerosis, fatty liver disease, the raised blood glucose, excess sugar circulating, damaging all of our organs, including the kidneys. And of course, you have this harmful fat circulating, depositing in our body, causing obesity, and they are all interlinked, and they all lead to heart disease, stroke, cancer, diabetes. So opportunity in this is that we can really attack major diseases by focusing on unhealthy diets, lack of physical activity, and tobacco use. So that's a very important thing that we have to, a weapon that we have a weakness in these chronic diseases that we can attack, and thus live longer and healthier lives. In many countries, Scandinavian countries, in Japan, this is being accomplished. There is a significant effort to have healthy diets. There is an effort to promote and to carry out physical activity, and of course, decrease tobacco use. Next slide. Alrighty. So we need to, in essence, what we need to do, we need to target the root causes of chronic diseases. We need to promote health literacy. People have to know, they have to know what's causing this obesity and why obesity is not a matter of looking good or looking bad. Obesity is really a disease, It is harming you. It is harming us. And we need to encourage, of course, encourage and support sustainable behavioral change. When people are seeking to have healthy diets, society needs to support them, needs to foster that. In other words, we have to implement behavior change as individuals and as community. We need to change our behaviors towards this lifestyles that protect us from acquiring chronic diseases by focusing on those risk factors that I mentioned before: lack of physical activity, poor diets. The diets among Hispanics, unfortunately, are very high on carbohydrates, very high on processed meats, very high on fats, unfortunately. So we need to increase, proteins, like that's Armendariz, the lean meats, fish, and we should use more olive oil than animal fats. And we need to focus not just on our weight, but also on waist measurement, because it's been proven and it's been advanced very much more aggressively in the past few years. Waist measurement tells you about fat that actually acts as a harmful organ, let's say, in our body. So the fat that's accumulated in the waist fat, actually is secreting fat and is secreting enzymes and secreting other products that lead then to cardiovascular diseases, to diabetes. If, for example, an individual has adult diabetes and you're able to control their modified risk factors such as increased activity, decrease consumption of carbohydrates and sugars, and the diabetes type 2 actually goes away. It actually goes away. It stops doing harm. So these can be accomplished. They can be done. And we are not really at the mercy of these chronic diseases, and neither are we at the we're not at the mercy of chronic diseases, because most of these are under our control. Of course, localities, cities, the states, the nation, they have to go in step, but we don't have to wait until those things happen. A lot of it is under our control. If you go to any supermarket, Walmart, Target, or just your supermarket, and you look at the shopping carts of Latinos, you wish you had a dietitian there, and because it would show that a lot of it is very harmful food for their children. A lot of sodas, a lot of sweetened drinks, they say orange juice is healthy. Well, yeah, but it's very high in sugar. But worse, many of them don't even have orange juice. They say orange drink. And that allows them to have only like 5% orange juice. They're not even getting orange juice. But if you look, their shopping carts are full of carbohydrates, full of sweets, full of harmful foods and that do not contribute to a healthy diet. And you have to start early. If you get your little kids trained on having sodas or snacks at any time, they're not going to go to water. So you have to start from the very beginning, from breast milk to water. And then you will find that kids enjoy water. And when you say, can I have something to drink? You give them the water, they'll be happy. But if they're being raised with Coca-Colas and with sweet fruit juices and you give them water, they're not going to like it. So once again, I do want to emphasize that this is, something that is under our control, and we can do something about it. So therefore, there's value to this, folks, if you can change people's minds and if you can get people to be more mindful about their own quality of life. Next slide. This next slide lists the consequence of obesity. As you can see, it's a long list. Very important to note that obesity is not just a matter of looking good, not looking good, or this or that. It is a leading cause of these major diseases. Many are very important, and they're leading causes of death. Disability, diabetes causes amputations, causes blindness. Obesity itself causes, degenerative joint disease, degenerative arthritis, gallstone, gallbladder disease, anxiety, depression. So this is what we have to target, and it can be targeted by the individual. Next slide. Next slide, please. Next slide. And this is more or less what I've talked about, and the major places where we have to attack obesity. We attack obesity, diabetes, and hypertension will fall. They will fall. They will go away. A person that's obese and has diabetes and high blood pressure, if the obesity is controlled, those two other ones will go away. Next slide. In the majority of cases. Same thing, causes kidney failure in the United States. A lot of it is caused by diabetes and high blood pressure. Almost 2/3 of it are caused by that. Next slide. Actually, can we go to our last slide? Yes. First of all, I want to thank you for NHCOA for bringing attention to this issue, and for Dr. Armendariz for recommending what is, a healthy diet. It is achievable, and of course, diet and exercise are major factors that are under our control that can actually have an impact in the prevalence of chronic diseases and have an impact on the quality of life. Because it's not just a matter of how, when you die. The question is the quality of life, as it was mentioned in that passage from Moses' death at 120, being able to see well and have all his body functioning perfectly well. Well, thank you so much, Christine. I really appreciate your patience. And as I said, if I didn't, I will send a new set of slides. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pacheco, for your informative presentation. And for everyone, please be sure to hold on to any questions you have about today's presentation. And again, we encourage you to type your questions in the chat box. At the end of the panel session, we will have a question and answer session where we will have the time to address all your questions. So do you know that regular exercise plays a key role in improving the quality of life of older adults? Well, there are many benefits to incorporating some physical activity into your everyday routines. It can improve mood, reduce stress, and even sharpen your memory, contributing to overall independence and also a well-being as we age. Well, let's hear more from our next speaker is Dr. Jim Skinner. He's Professor Emeritus of Indiana University. Today, Dr. Skinner will talk to us about exercise and also quality of life among older adults. Welcome, Dr. Skinner.
Thank you, Christine. It's a pleasure for me to come here and to talk with this group. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear a little bit of echo, Dr. Skinner.
Can you hear me okay now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Skip to the next slide. Just go two slides forward. And okay, then one more and then one more. Okay. We know that people are living longer, and so today, we're getting more people who are older, and quality of life is an important aspect. I want to thank Dr. Pacheco for introducing that by saying how important physical activity is for quality of life. And I would just start with a definition that quality of life, if you see in the middle, is mainly a sense of well-being and happiness, but there's types that's related to health-related quality of life, where we look at the different effects of different diseases and health problems. And obviously in the elderly, if you see on the top, there are many different aspects of what is well-being and what is happiness. Next slide, please. We know that quality of life tends to decrease with age, and that exercise can improve many of these psychosocial and physical aspects of quality of life. Next. I'm going to go through these pretty fast. Okay, so in 2009, the American College of Sports Medicine put out a position stand on exercise and physical activity for older adults. And they had a group of experts. If you see at the very last name, I was one in that group. And what we did is we looked at the evidence. Next slide, please. On a whole different series of values, variables, and we said either was very strong, it was strong and consistent, and we gave it a 3. If it was positive, generally positive, it was 2. If 1, we didn't really have enough information. Now, that was done about 16 years ago, and since that time, some of the 3s have gone to 4, some of the 2s have gone to 3, and we have fewer, we have some of the 1s have gone to 2, but anytime you see something that's 4 or 3, that's very strong evidence that what I'm going to be talking about. Next slide, please. So, advancing age is associated with declines in activity, both in the amount and the intensity, and that's very strong evidence. Next slide. Regular physical activity may be a major lifestyle factor that discriminates between those who have and who have not experienced successful aging. That was 3-2, then now it's 4-3. So there is some very good evidence, more and more evidence that if you want to be age well, physical activity is a major factor. Next. There are very strong evidence that cardiovascular fitness and high levels of physical activity reduce the risk of cognitive decline and dementia. That, for a lot of people, this is a very important aspect in their well-being and their quality of life, because when they feel that they're having some problems with cognitive decline, they're not very happy. Next slide, please. Regular physical activity is associated with significant improvements in overall psychological well-being. Again, very strong evidence. So there's both that exercise is associated with a less risk for clinical depression or anxiety, which are parts of quality of life. If you're depressed or anxious, your quality of life is not very good. Next slide, please. And then some studies had done back at that time, and a little bit more now. It's not as strong, but there's still evidence is probably closer to a 3 now, that many balance and strength exercise, for example, Tai Chi, reduces the risk of falling, and falling is a major concern with the elderly people. So if they feel that they are at risk of fall, their quality of life is not as good because they're a bit nervous. Next slide, please. So here's some things where we've looked at the quality, the evidence, and the benefit of physical activity. It improves physical fitness, counters loss in heart and lung fitness, counters the loss of muscle, counters the gain in fat, improves life expectancy, and improves life quality of life. All those are 3s and 4s. And there's still very strong evidence that suggests that that is the case. Next slide, please. And from the psychological point of view, that was strong then, it's even stronger now, that people have better mood, they're less stress, they have less depression, less anxiety, and improved self-esteem. So it obviously is very good for people when they're active because they feel better. And when they feel better, their quality of life is better. Next slide, please. And as I mentioned before, if they do physical activity at right kind of exercise, they lower the risk of developing Alzheimer's disease by 33%, and several studies showed that exercise can decrease depression as effectively as Prozac or behavioral therapy. So you don't need to necessarily, I'm not saying that you do that instead, but if you have symptoms of depression, being active will help that. And then if you do it, and some people, as well as taking drugs or as well as behavioral therapy, but you should try those others too if it'll help you even more. Next slide. Life satisfaction with physical activity. The people feel that they feel that they can exercise better. Their self-value is better. They have fewer disabilities, and they're more satisfied with life. Next slide. So people with greater life satisfaction have a decreased risk of chronic disease and mortality, and have a better physical and mental health. And so that's important because if you do moderate to vigorous physical activity, it's associated with less distress, and less distress means higher quality of life. Next slide, please. And so you looking at these slides, this over here on the left-hand side, they just talk about how often people are exercised. And the more they exercise, you see that the values of these different aspects of quality of life are improved. And this was a study of a large group of women, 60 to 92. And those who had more, who did more moderate to vigorous physical activity more often, and plus those who had to walk more had a better quality of life. And that goes over and over and over again. And so that's a level of 4, the very, very strong evidence. Next slide. Now, I want to discuss something called sarcopenia. This is what sarcopenia is basically reduced muscle mass with aging. And we have 2 types of muscle fibers in our body. We have the type 1, which are the slow fibers. They're used in walking, lifting light weights, low intensity exercise. And then we have type 2 muscle fibers, which are associated with strength and speed. Well, it turns out that when we, as it was mentioned by the Dr. Armendariz as well as Dr. Pacheco, that as people get older, they tend to lose muscle mass. Well, the interesting thing is the muscles that atrophy most are the type 2 fibers, which means people are not doing the strength work. They're doing the type 1 fibers, the low intensity fibers that are used during low intensity exercise. Those stay pretty much the same because we still use them. And the interesting thing is that we don't lose as much muscle mass in the upper body because we still use our arms and do the same sorts of things that we were doing before. But we lose more in the lower extremities, the lower in the legs. And the reason that's important is that if you are losing the type 2 fiber, the speed fiber and the strength fiber, if you start to lose your balance, you have the strength and the speed to correct it and avoid falling. So it's important that as people get older, that they do more strength work, especially in the lower extremity, because that's important for falling. Next slide, please. So if we have declining muscle mass and strength and power is just the speed of the contraction, then if you start you losing muscle mass and strength and speed, then you start having more disability and a greater fear of falling, and you have less independent functioning, and also your quality of life. So if someone were to ask me what is the best program for older people, it would be doing the cardiovascular exercise for the heart, and strength exercise for the muscle. Those are the most important things. And then I would also add balance, because falling is a concern of the elderly, so they should do more exercises to improve their balance. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is why I suggested that you should do more strength training, because you'll slow the loss of muscle and bone mass and strength. But if you do that, but if you do just aerobic exercise, and we see people, they do a lot of walking, and that's good. But that handles the cardiovascular aspect and maybe the weight control aspect. But if you start doing the strength work, you'll increase the muscle mass, especially in the lower extremity, and the bone mass. So it's also effective for improving bone mass and having less osteoporosis. So it's important to do the strength work. And the interesting thing about doing strength work, a number of studies shown with people in their 80s and 90s, that when they do strength work, they become spontaneously more active because they're less concerned about falling. They tend to they don't use their walker as much. If they're just going up one flight of stairs, they may use the stairs instead of the elevator. And therefore, what they're doing is that now that they have more strength and they're less afraid to fall, they tend to be more active. So that's why doing strength work is important. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't do the exercise, the walking and that sort of thing. But do the strength work, because that is even more important. Next slide. So as I mentioned, a major potential threat in independent functioning and quality of life is the fear of falling. So if you have a fear of falling, what happens is that then you become less confident, you restrict your activities, then by restricting your activities, you lose more muscle mass, you lose more strength, you withdraw, and you lose your independence. Now you have to sit or you have to be pushed in the chair because you can't do some of these other things, or you have to use a walker, and some people then they just withdraw, and then that makes it worse, because now that they can't do it, that they don't do it, then they feel they can't do it. And so you've got to reverse that spiral and get them to be more active, especially with strength, and then they will improve. Next slide. So as I mentioned, when older people become stronger, they tend to increase their activity, their spontaneous activity. And there have been many studies with people in their 90s and people who are we'll call frail adults, those who have to be helped much more. And when you become stronger, then this decreases that. Next slide, please. Okay, those who live in the community tend to be more active and have a better quality of life than those who live in institutions. Well, part of that is because in the institutions they don't do as much activity, and hopefully you would hope that the people in the free living community would still have a chance to do more. Next slide. So we know that exercise is a form of activity, social activity for everyone, but this is especially so for the elderly. So it's important to do things with other people. For example, in the Hispanics, they love to dance, and there have been studies with elderly Hispanic people who go to a class and do rumba, cha-cha, merengue, that sort of thing. They don't consider that exercise, but they do it in a social environment, and they really enjoy it. And that's really good for their activity. And the last slide, please. So for healthy aging, It's important to maintain and increase physical activity throughout life to improve your health-related quality of life. What you did when you were 20 and 30 does not confer any protection against the further decline of quality of life, which this means that if you want to remain active, you have to remain active. You have to keep doing it. So the old saying is, use it or you lose it. And so remember, try to be active, find things you enjoy doing them regularly, and do aerobic exercise like walking, but important to also do some strength exercises, especially for the lower body. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Dr. Skinner, for your presentation. So as we close the panel session, thank you to each of our speakers once again for making today's event worthwhile and also informed discussion. So now that we have had our final speaker, we will move on to the question and answer session. It will be a little bit short just to be respectful of the time. So we have some questions and from the audience, and one of them is the following. And again, Dr. Pacheco, Dr. Skinner, you can answer any of the questions that you prefer. So the first one is, what advice do you have for maintaining a healthy diet on a limited budget?
Let me get just a little bit ahead and let Dr. Skinner, of course, add. Essentially, once again, if you look at the store baskets in any store frequented by Hispanics, you'll see that a lot of the foods that they have are not really inexpensive. They are more expensive than regular foods. I mean, what can be cheaper than water compared to sodas and all those things? So many times, it is not the foods that we need the most are in many ways the cheapest. For example, if you look at a bag of lentils, a bag of garbanzos, a bag of beans, it's a lot cheaper than many of the processed foods that we buy. If you look at a package of chicken and chicken breasts and chicken legs, once you remove the skin and the fat, it's a lot cheaper than many of the processed meats that we buy. So really, it is not more expensive to eat healthy. On the contrary, I would bet that it's cheaper to eat healthy, because many times we tend to exaggerate what healthy eating is by pointing out to specialty foods, especially those that have been sold by places that make their money from selling foods that people think are special. But ordinary foods, basic foods, are really more they're inexpensive compared to processed foods.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Pacheco. And sometimes they prefer frozen food, which occasionally it's more expensive and not that healthy as well.
Yes.
Dr. Skinner, do you have any?
No, I think Dr. Armendariz mentioned about buying bulk food and these sorts of things, and just be there are many ways to get fiber. There are many ways to get all these other things, and you don't have to go to as Dr. Pacheco said, the highly processed foods and the more expensive things. You can find plenty of oatmeal for fiber, which is very cheap, for example.
I agree. Thank you, Dr. Skinner and Dr. Pacheco. So we have a final question, and just for any of you to answer it. And it's, what role does culture play in shaping nutrition practices within Hispanic and Latino communities?
Oh, Dr. Skinner, if you'd like to go ahead.
I'm not sure that I'm the one to answer that question. That's
okay.
I'm
thank
sorry
you so
that
much.
Dr. Armendariz is not here, so that would be right in her line.
And please, Christine, can you repeat what role culture plays in
shaping nutrition practices within Hispanic and Latino communities?
Well, culture has a very positive role in essence. For example, if most Latin Americans would eat what their grandparents prepared, we would be in great shape. In other words, if I would eat what my mom and dad ate and what they served us, I would be in great shape. You know, it's when we get out of our culture and start assimilating processed meats, highly refined foods, the box of sweetened cereals, that's when we get into trouble. So sticking to our cultural foods is really, the safest thing to do. Now, one observation that I think, I've been in Puerto Rico quite a bit, and one of the problems that I find is that in Puerto Rico, for example, culturally, I don't see too many salads and greenery. And that is, I think, is beginning to be addressed in television when you see these guests making meals on television. They are beginning to introduce a lot more fruits and fresh vegetables, because in Puerto Rico, for example, that's really lacking. And so there are things in our cultures that, for example, I'm Bolivian, and that culture tends to eat too many carbohydrates. We don't consider a meal unless it has a lot of potatoes, a lot of corn, a lot of things like that. Rice, not to mention. So it's the quantity of this carbohydrates in many of our cultural foods that we may want to tone down a little. But the basic eating of the basic vegetables, basic meats, that's good. I mean, it's as healthier than eating, processed meats and processed foods and things that you see on television.
I would just mention one other thing. There are a number of studies done with various cultures, the Native Americans, the Hispanics, and in China, for example. China, for many years, the people were quite lean, but then they developed the Western diet as a processed food, and they didn't eat the way they normally ate. And the same thing with the Native Americans. They didn't go from the diet that they had. They went to the Western diet, and the Hispanics do the same thing. And so this is not something that it's good for any population, not just Hispanics. If they go back to eating the way they used to eat, that their forefathers ate, they would be much better off. But we tend to have things that are cheaper and have the less calories. They have more calories but less nutrition, and that's what we need to avoid.
Excellent. Thank you again, Dr. Pacheco and Dr. Skinner. We need to end the question and answer session. But before closing the webinar, I would like to introduce Mr. Robert Blancato. He's the president of METS, Blancato and Associates. He also serves as the executive director of programs for the National Association of Nutrition and Aging Services. And also NACOA is proud to know Mr. Blancato as a member of our board of directors. So welcome, Mr. Blancato.
Thank you, Christine. They're telling me I can't get my camera to work, but I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can. We can hear you.
Okay, that's encouraging. Thank you, Christine, for the invitation. And let me go right to our first slide. And yes, I'm very proud to be the one after that. I'm very proud to be a board member of NHCOA, and I'm happy to participate in one of these very important webinars. And I really enjoyed Dr. Pacheco and Dr. Skinner's comments. I think some of them factor into what I'm going to be saying a little bit later. I also want to commend Yanira for keeping the important focus on health, and within that focus, the recognition that good nutrition leads to and preserves good health. And that's one of the reasons that some people may not know this, but it was one of the reasons that Yanira was asked and did agree to join as a board member of the National Association of Nutrition and Aging Service Programs, and we're delighted to have her. And your timing is always good when you have these webinars, and I'm going to tell you why for two reasons. Let's go to the next slide. First is we are about to close fiscal year 2025. On October 1st, we'll start fiscal year 2026. And we're having very slow progress in moving individual funding bills forward. And we have to do it by October 1st, or one of two things happen. Either we have to pass a short-term funding bill, or the government shuts down. And nobody wants to gamble with a shutdown right now, especially in this environment. So where are we with nutrition funding? Next slide. You know, in the Older Americans Act, which has the largest of its program is nutrition, the preliminary action in both bodies seems to be supporting holding funding at current levels for both the congregate and home delivered meal program. Now, some people say that's great, it's not a cut, but in fact, it is a cut. If you flat fund the program for 2 years, when you factor in inflation, food costs, transportation costs, it isn't equal to a double-digit cut. And look at that one statistic about how wholesale prices for domestic vegetables surged 38% just in the month of July, the biggest increase in almost a century. So it's a real factor. Next slide. And we also have changes in the SNAP program, or the food stamp program, that came through the HR 1, or the Big Beautiful Bill, as some people call it. It's going to make it more difficult for older adults to remain in the SNAP program. And the SNAP program is very important for low-income older adults across the country. And then we have the CSEP program, the Older Workers Program, which provides employment opportunities for low-income older adults, many of whom work in nutrition programs. And right now, they face being furloughed because the Department of Labor is not releasing money that Congress already appropriated for that program. One program that is likely to be safe is the Senior Farmers Market Program, which is a wonderful program providing fresh fruits and vegetables to low-income older adults. Next slide. So, and we know, and I've talked to Yanira about this before, you guys support our joint request of the NANASP and Meals on Wheels America for a funding level of about $1.8 billion for the Older Americans Act nutrition programs for fiscal year 26. We are going to keep pushing that, because that's a realistic number that will allow these programs to continue and to grow and to meet the growing demand that they currently face. Next slide talks about a related issue, which is the status of the Older Americans Act reauthorization. Now, we know we have to reauthorize the act. It was supposed to be done last year. Nutrition is the largest program, and right now, almost 1/3 of all the programs in the nutrition program have a waiting list, which is not good. And we know how important this nutrition program has been. It's demonstrated its value. It provides more than a meal. It provides nutrition education. It provides a socialization opportunity, which reduces rates of isolation and loneliness, which is a health threat. And it also helps to prevent malnutrition, which is a clear and present danger for older adults, with 1 in 2 older adults either at risk of or having or who are malnourished. Next slide. The other reason why this webinar is timely is the ongoing work of Making America Healthy Again, or MAHA. Now, while its preliminary work has been around child nutrition, they are expected to move to older adult nutrition issues, as you and others have suggested be done. We do commend Secretary Kennedy's recent call for medical schools to include nutrition in their curriculums, since 75% of U.S. medical schools have no required nutrition classes. And we're monitoring the work of the Senate and House MAHA caucuses. And we see there are 2 bills that could still be passed by Congress this year that could really be critical to strengthening the tie between nutrition and good health. Next slide. So one is the Medical Nutrition Therapy Act, which would expand nutrition therapy to more diseases than are currently now in the system. And the other is the Treat and Reduce Obesity Act, or TROA. Now, the Senate has both these bills in their agenda for the Senate MAHA caucus. And we do expect another major health bill to be taken up by Congress before the end of the year. And we have good reason to believe that with good advocacy, these bills could be included in that package, along with extending telehealth programs for at least another 6 months, which would be very important. Next slide talks about something that is very also new, that was just announced by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. They put out in the physician fee schedule for this year an opportunity for people to weigh in to show why community-based services, social care programs, could for the first time be reimbursed under Medicare. Okay, having Medicare codes for programs that reduce social isolation, that are evidence-based in nature, and include medically tailored meals. They are inviting people to make comments, and the deadline for these comments is September 12th. And we know many, many groups are planning to weigh in because that could be a game changer for social care in this country if you have Medicare reimbursement codes attached to social care. So we encourage everybody who's interested in this to make their comments, and that's how you do so. And these slides will be available to people who want them. And then finally, on my last slide, you know, and I've said this before, you know, good nutrition is as powerful a preventative health measure as we have. We just need to recognize it and support it better. If we are to making America healthy again, then all preventative health measures cannot be hard to access. It defeats the purpose. We cannot overlook malnutrition, and we need to see it as the chronic disease that it is. And as it was mentioned before, Dr. Pacheco made a good point about this. We really do have to change the food pricing paradigm in this country. We have to make better quality food less expensive and more accessible, because after all, if we are what we eat, then let's make sure it's nutritious. And thank you for the chance to participate with you today.
Thank you, Mr. Blancato, for your closing remarks. And again, we would like to thank all of our attendees and experts for joining today's webinar. And just before closing, we strongly encourage our policymakers and leaders in the field to heed the advice and expertise of today's panelists, as well as the perspective and experiences of the attendees. And again, culturally appropriate information and relevant scores, such as what we have conducted here today, empowers Hispanic older adults and their families to embrace the practice of both healthy eating and physical activity for a better quality of life. And again, for more information about upcoming webinars, events, please visit us at our website as www.NHCOA.org. And also you can follow us in our social media channels like in X, Facebook, and Instagram by using the following handle as NHCOA. Thank you again for joining us, and until the next one. Take care.
Thank you, Christine. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.